Hello everyone. Welcome to this video on embedding a dashboard in ASP.NET MVC. In this tutorial, I will show you how to embed a dashboard in an ASP.NET MVC application. This integration provides a seamless experience for accessing and gaining real-time insights. It helps manage data and visualizations in a centralized environment, simplifying data handling, reducing the complexity of analysis, and improving business performance. I've provided a link to the documentation, which includes a sample application for your reference. Let's get started. I have already installed Visual Studio and .NET Framework on my machine. I open Visual Studio and select Create New Project. In the search bar, search for and select ASP.NET Web Application.NET Framework. And click Next. I change the project name and location. And click Create. Next, I select MVC and Web API. And then Create. This generates a basic project with all the necessary files and dependencies to start building a web application. Once the application is created, I need to add an Embed configure file to configure embedding parameters, authentication, user context, and customization for secure embedding of a dashboard. In the dashboard server, I click Settings. Select Embed. Click Enable Embed Authentication. And click Download. A dialog box will open. I choose the Information Technology category and Customer Service Performance Dashboard. Next, I download the JSON file and put it in the desired folder. Then I copy and add it to the ASP.NET MVC application root folder. I create a model class named dataclass.cs in the models folder. Then I add the model namespace and newtonsoft.json, which handle JSON serialization, deserialization, and naming conflicts. I add a token class to map JSON properties to C# properties using JSON property attributes, enabling easy deserialization of authentication token data with newtonsoft.json. I add the Embed Details class to define configuration properties for embedding dashboards, including environment, server info, user identity, and embed settings. Then I create a new file named globalappsettings.cs. I add the Global App Settings namespace and class to access and manage embedding configurations globally across the application. Next, I create a new file, APIResponse.cs. I add the necessary namespaces. Then I provide the API response class, which is a serializable data contract used to structure API responses. It contains fields for status, message, and return data, making it easy to standardize and serialize responses in web services. Next, I create a new CSHTML, dashboardlisting.cshtml in the Views/Home folder. Here I will configure the script to display the dashboard. I import the ASP.NET MVC Models namespace to access model classes within the view, set the view's title to Home, and disable the shared layout by setting layout equals null. Next, I add the basic HTML template. Within it, add head section to link styles and scripts for embedding bold BI dashboards, and initialize JavaScript variables using server-side Razor syntax to configure the embedding environment. I add body section to call render dashboard on page load to display the embedded bold BI dashboard inside the dashboard div within the viewer section. Next, I open site.css in the content folder. I copy the code from the documentation and add it. This CSS styles a dashboard layout with a sidebar and main viewer, customizing elements like tabs, buttons, and dashboard items for a clean, responsive UI with interactive features. Next, I configure the web API. I open controllers/homecontroller.cs to update the code within it. I import essential namespaces for ASP.NET MVC functionality, HTTP communication, JSON handling with Newtonsoft.json, model access, and cryptographic operations within the boldbi.embed.sample.controllers namespace. I add an index action to read embed.config.json, deserialize it into an embed details object using JSON convert, set a flag if successful, and pass the result to the view via viewbag. Next, I add the getDashboards method, which is an HTTP GET endpoint that retrieves dashboard data from the Bold BI server using an access token for authorization, and returns the JSON response as a string. I add dashboard listing action, which is an HTTP GET endpoint that returns the dashboard listing view, typically used to display a list or interface for selecting dashboards. I add the getToken method, which sends a post request with user credentials and embeds the secret key to the Bold BI token API, retrieves the authentication token as JSON, and deserializes it into a token object using JSON convert. I add the authorization server post method, which appends the user email and a signature to the embed query string, then sends a GET request to the Bold BI authorization API and returns the JSON response for embedding authorization. I add the getSignatureURL method, which generates a base 64 encoded HMACSHA 256 signature from the embed query string using the embed secret key. This ensures secure authorization for embedding dashboards. Next, I open the scripts folder and create a folder called Embed. Within it, I create a new file index.js. I add init function, which sends an asynchronous GET request to the getDashboards URL endpoint, parses the JSON response, and calls listDashboards to display the dashboards, while handling errors like 404 or other HTTP failures with console logs. I add listDashboards function, which renders the first dashboard by default and dynamically creates clickable dashboard items from the data array, appending them to the panel for user interaction and selection. I add the renderDashboard function, which initializes and loads a Bold BI embedded dashboard using configuration parameters, rendering it inside the specified HTML container. I add the embed config error dialog function, which creates and displays a modal error dialog using Bold BI's EJS pop-ups. This dialog informs the user that an embed config JSON file is required and provides a link to documentation for obtaining it. I append the dialog to the sample dialog container, add a footer with an OK button that triggers the cancel function, and ensure that the overlay is in a fixed position for proper modal display. Now, everything is ready to preview the dashboard. I click the Build solution, and then the Run icon to run the project. You will see the Customer Service Performance dashboard rendered in the default browser. If you want to open the dashboard in design mode, change the view mode to Design and Load Dashboard to Load Designer in the index.js. Then click Rebuild Solution and Run icon. You'll see the dashboard load in design mode. In this video, I have shown you how to embed a dashboard in the ASP.NET MVC application with Visual Studio and Bold BI. To learn more about Bold BI, you can visit boldbi.com. To try Bold BI, you can start a 30-day free trial by clicking the Try It Free option. If you want a demo from an expert, you can schedule a call by clicking the Request Demo button. If you found this video helpful, click the like button and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching.